for success. He was born in a small town in the interior, a city of 8,000 inhabitants, the son of farmers and brothers of 3 young people resigned to life. His parents were excellent workers in the field. They aimed to work to put food on the table. After all, eating is a priority. No one survives without eating. Being the youngest, he was pampered more than his sister and 2 brothers, who were more demanded than he. Soon went to the fields, weeding, cutting pasture, a hard life that had only one refreshment, the end of the day, bath time and relax a little. The sister still complained that she had to help prepare dinner, being contradicted by her mother, who also like her worked intensely in the heat of the hot sun all day. The father, worn out by the tiring work, between one nap and the other, looked at the newspaper and thought about what life had exposed his family, and the father-in-law had warned his daughter that marrying a poor person was for a cruel fate. What could it be that it passed through her head, after 31 long and painful years? Rubens, the youngest's name, was reading his family. In fact, it was a life study. He analyzed where they were going, what future awaited them, what they could offer their grandchildren. Someone would have a different future than your grandparents. History just repeated itself. It was a vicious cycle of a story of nothing leading anywhere. Time passed. His sister married a neighbor, honest and dedicated worker, one who doesn't take away from anyone but also thinks about working in the morning to eat in the evening. The older brother went to the army, became a corporal and married. After leaving the military life, returned to the countryside and applied the old life in agriculture. The brother, a year and a little younger, gets the neighbor pregnant and is forced to get married before the girl's belly reports what has happened. Rubens does the new family reading. Everything was a cycle. There was nothing different. The future of the brothers was the same as his ancestors and his parents, but at masses he heard that murmuring was a sin, that we had to accept life as it is. The poor will always exist. Who will work for the rich if everyone has plenty of money? Who will do the hard service if everyone is rich? But he, Rubens, was different. He wasn't like yours. He wasn't born to be poor. He thought, I'm going to leave home. I'm going to study, and I'll have a prosperous life. I'll come back here just to ride in my car, and still I'm going to buy a few hectares of land and prepare a millionaire old age in. When he announced to his parents that he was leaving, he received a lot of criticism from his brothers who lived next door, and the parents were very worried, because they didn't understand why the youngest's head was so different, where they went wrong in their creation. One pushed the blame to the other, saying that the son was very protected and took a long time to go to work in the fields and so on. A climate of discord was created in the couple. The house was getting far away. It was getting smaller as it got farther away. Rubens didn't even think about homesickness. He really wanted to be independent, to have his own life, much better than the one he had witnessed from an early age, and so, it was his way without knowing the direction to take. He left with little money. I could eat for a few days and stay in a small, lackluster inn. After walking for hours, asking for water in some houses, he finally arrived in the city, a place he was not used to. Since childhood, his father had taken him, no more than 3 times to the urban area. Everything was new for him. He had never walked the streets alone. He was enchanted by the lights and the performance from the center of the city. But it was time to work. A few days had passed. The charm was no longer the same. The money was running out. The owner of the pension had already found some jobs for him, as she was afraid of not receiving the rent. The next day, he woke up early, stretched out the bed, and went looking for an occupation to get more money. After hours he arrived at a food establishment, whose owner was his Walter, who employed him. Hard, difficult work. He thought that only farming was tiring. There, in addition to the mustachioed boss being intransigent, perfectionist and very demanding, his customers also demanded speed and agility from him, which he discovered were not the same thing. Time passed, months, more than a year, and now? It was just him. He had only changed his address. The cycle repeated itself. It was the same life that he annoyed, but in a different way. Determined, he completed high school in the small town and headed to college in the big city, several kilometers away from his family roots. He took the entrance exam, was not approved, tried next year, and again failed. He worked from sunrise to sunset, in an office without air conditioning, and with a workload that was for 4 or 5 people, but he did it alone and still got scolding of the boss, who accused him of being slow and negligent. He still had to put up with the only professional colleague who said he was a dreamer, that he talked too much, and that he would never go anywhere in life. It was difficult. The inner voice said that he was a failure, that he wouldn't make it. His colleague, bosses, brothers and parents were right. It was really a 0 on the left. After crying, lamenting and almost believing in the mysterious voice that came from inside his mind, he looked to the sky, remembered that there is a God who watches over us. It is true that he had never had great contact with him, but he remembered the Bible stories his grandmother read to him as a child. Suddenly a strength welled up inside him. He pushed out any negative thoughts. He seemed to have eaten spinach Popeyes. Now he was strong and determined to win. But little did he know that this was it, just the beginning of victory.